We're all good. Okay, so we need to pick, as we said, we need to pick statistics. We need to go into statistics, and then we need to put in a heap of numbers. So what we said we were going to do was we're going to go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Now, beware when you're putting in numbers that you need to make sure that you just double check your numbers, because you know how like when you're typing really fast on a computer and then it starts like doing something in its memory and it stops, and then after a couple of seconds it sort of catches up again on like a sentence if you're writing like a Word document or something. Your calculator doesn't do that, okay? So if it suddenly stops to try and think and do something, it doesn't catch up again. So you make sure that you've actually put in all the numbers you want to put in, all right? Now, we've got a list of numbers, and that's important for us to know. If we've got just a list of numbers, there's certain settings. So for a list of numbers, like what we've just done, we need to put in some specific settings, okay? So in this screen, we need to go to Set Graph, Settings. So, Set Graph. Well, setting, not settings, okay? Now, for this data, what two graphs have we looked at? Histograms and box and whisker plots. Okay, so if we scroll down from where it says scatter, a histogram is there. We can go histogram, or we can go med box, which is our box and whisker plot. Okay, so in type, you can change it to histogram or med box, depending on what you want. I'll give you the tip though, we usually only do this for histograms, okay? But if you do want a box and whisker plot, you can see it there, med box, okay? We then need to look at the rest of it. So we're going to change it to histogram. Now it says X list and it says frequency. X list means where are the scores? So where are the scores? What list were the scores in there? No, they were in list 1, yeah? So, let's rewrite that. So, X list should be list 1. It's actually saying where the scores are. The frequency for a list of scores is just 1. What it's saying is each score is counted just once each time. So what that's saying is, so if I click set, so I've got histogram, list 1, 1. When I click set, this will come, it will then, it doesn't change anything, it's just changing your settings. So you can't actually see any specific changes, but you can see it will change your settings as you go. All right. And then click set. All right. We then want to actually graph a histogram from here. How do you think we graph a histogram? We click the graph button. Where's the graph button? Top left. Okay? So we click on that graphing button. That one. We click on the graphing button. Once we do that, we end up with what says H start and H step. Okay? What that means is H start, it's going to be more important in the next sort of list we do, and H step means where does the data start? And then the step means like what sort of increments, what sort of groups do we want it as? What distance between the groups? And I'll explain that more in a second. All right, so from here, if we look at it, it says 2, we want it to step by 2, that's fine. Okay, it's, with these lists of numbers, it's not as important. When I click OK, it'll come up as that. Why does it look like that? Because there's no, they're all written separately as just one of everything, isn't there? Okay, now really, if we're looking at all the numbers from 1 to 20, I would want this to have a space between each one because there's no number 1 and there's no number 3 and there's no number 5, etc. So how I could change that is I could go into the graph and go each step as 1. And then it gives me those spaces because it's saying there's one column for each number. So there's none for 1, there's 1 for 2, none for 3, and so on. Guys who just walked in, I'm taping it and I'll send you the notes, but if you've got a calculator or you can sit next to someone with a calculator, I'd like you to give it a shot. All right, everyone okay with drawing a histogram? You're more likely to have to draw a histogram with group data. We're going to do that in a second. Now, what were the other things we need to be able to find? We could do a box and whisker plot. That would just be, so if I actually change set graph setting to box and whisker, or med box, sorry, and then I press graph, it'll come up with a box and whisker plot. Do you guys want to try that? So just click back into your numbers, and that'll give you the set graph again. Set graph setting, change it to med box, and it'll give you a box and whisker plot. Pardon? Yes. What else do we need to find from these graphs? Mode, median, mean, and all those things are in the same part on this in your calculator. So once you're in your graph, it doesn't matter if you're in your box and whisker plot or your histogram. So in statistics, put in the numbers. All right, so what we do is we go analysis. No, we don't. We go calc, one variable. Remember how we said that all the data we've done is just one variable? We're just measuring one thing. 2 variables means we might measure height and weight. For this, we're just measuring one thing. Okay, so we go one variable. Same settings as before. And it gives us this list of numbers. Okay, so I'll just write that again. So calc, one variable. So for for the statistics for your points, we go calc, one variable. And then keep the same settings as before. All right. So from here, we get given a set of information there. We need to know what the numbers mean. Can you guys just move and sit next to someone with a calculator, please? All right, so if we look at this set first, what does the x dash mean? This means mean, okay? So the first one tells us the mean. The mean is 11, okay? The second one, what do you reckon that tells us? What's that sign mean? What's this sign mean? Any ideas? It's Greek? It means summation. It's the summation of the scores. We don't really need to use that very much. But it would help us to find the mean because the sum of the scores divided by the number of scores equals 11. Okay? So 110 divided by 10 equals 11. So that tells you that. Yeah? All right, then the summation of the scores squared. We'll be talking about that later. This one here with the little sort of O with a little tag on the end, that's a standard deviation. We're going to be talking about that next lesson. So you need to know that one. Standard deviation is very important. Okay, what do you think N means? Sorry, the S one is another type of standard deviation we're not using. Number of scores. What do you reckon min X means? Minimum score, Q1, Q1, first quartile, okay? Then, sorry about my voice, guys. So we got to Q1, med, Q3 and max. What do you reckon they mean? It's pretty easy, guys. Median, Q3, and max. Oh, that's weird. It usually doesn't show up. Anyway, you can deal. You right? All right, so med is median, Q3 is Q3. Now, one last, max is maximum score. One last thing which is important. Why does it say mode 2, mode 4, mode 6, etc.? Because all of them are the same, are exactly the same. They've got the same frequency. Your calculator doesn't make the decision, oh, there's no mode. It just follows a procedure. It tells you which one has the most frequency. They all do, so it's listed them all. But if you have more than 2 modes, what do you say? You say there's no mode because it's not actually a good measure of centre, okay? So your calculator doesn't do that for you. You need to think about that, okay? Any questions to there? All right, everything's the same as that in your calculator except for the settings for when you have a table of results. So if you have a table of results, so for example, like grouped data. So if we had this 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, 15 to 19, 3, 6, 8, 11. Guys who have just walked in lately, the reason why I'm not making you write any notes is because you have to do this on your calculators at the same time. Okay, if you don't have a calculator, you know someone who does. All right. Can I put 0 to 4 in your calculator? No. What do I put in? 2. Okay. What's 2 mean? It's the midpoint. Okay. So for this set of data, you've got your groups and you've got your frequency. For this set of data in your calculator, in list 1, you put 2, 7, 12, 17. We talked about this a heap of times. Everyone understand that? All right. And then for list 2, what do we put in? 3, 6, 8, 11, yeah? Frequency. All right, so we need to remember that list 2 is the frequency for this. So in our calculators, when we put those numbers in, could you please put those numbers in? 2, 7, 12, 17, 3, 6, 8, 11. You might need to just clear all to start with. Right, this time when we go set graph setting, this is the only difference between everything we did just a second ago. When we go set graph setting, we still change to histogram. And where are our scores? Our scores are in. Remember X list means scores. Where are our scores? They're in list 2. Where's our frequency? Where was our frequency? It was in list 2, wasn't it? It wasn't saying each score is just once. It's saying the frequency is in list 2. So we have to change that frequency to be list 2. And it's vital that you do that or every single one of your results is going to be wrong. Okay? So if results are in a table, Okay, X list must be list 1 and frequency must be list 2. Otherwise, you're not going to get the right answer. It's only going to look at your first list. It's not going to look at your second list. Your question? No? All good? All right. So it's going to look like that. All right? That's the only difference. So if we click set, what do we do now? We want to get a histogram. We click on the graph button, yeah? Now, this is where the H start and the H step is more important. What was the first number we started with? 2. Now, right now it's got 1.66. I'll show you what the histogram looks like. It looks like that. Does that look like a very nice histogram to us? No, spaced out. There shouldn't be any spaces between them unless the frequency is 0. Okay, so something's gone wrong. What's gone wrong is it doesn't know how big our groups are. It doesn't know how big those groups are which have the frequency. How big are the groups in here for this? How many numbers are in each group? 5. There's 5 in each group. So for this, for our H start and our H step, we need to actually go graph, starts at 2 and it goes up by 5 each time. See how a histogram suddenly looks very nice. You see a difference? Yeah? So, I'll just put a... Sorry. So once again, if we click on the... So click graph. H start is what number we start with. And the H step is how big the groups are. And you should then be able to get a histogram which looks a lot like whatever's on your test paper or whatever your question you're looking at. How big the groups are. So for this one it was 5. If it was 0 to 10, what would the H step be? So if all the groups were like this, so if we went 0 to 10, 10 to, I know we officially say we don't do this, so hang on, I won't do what I don't do. So if it said 0 to 10, if it was like this, what would our H start and H step be? What does it start at? 0. What does it go up by? 10. So our H start would be 0. Our H, actually it wouldn't be 0. What does it start at? It's group data. What numbers do we put in our calculator? We can't put 0 to 10 in our calculator. We'd put in 5 and 15, wouldn't we? So what's our H start? 5. And our H step? How much is going up by each time? 10. And you should get a nice looking histogram from there. Yes. All right. That's pretty much all you have to do. So since a lot of you have just walked in, I'm just going to re-show you quickly just how to get the stats from here. So once you've got some numbers in your statistics, if you're trying to find the mean, the mode, the median, okay, any of those things, where you go is you go calc, one variable. All of these things are one variable data, okay? We need to make sure we change these stats to be the same. So because it's in a table, the scores are in list 1. Where's the frequency? In list 2. So we have to change that. And then we get our stats. This is the mean. This is the standard deviation. We're going to talk about that next lesson, so Thursday. Number of scores, minimum score, Q1. Then further down is median, Q3, maximum score, and mode. Okay, I'll show you now. Okay, this time it's only got one mode because we actually know the official mode. Yes? Wherefore, when you did your H start, H step, calc one variable. Okay, you have to do the set graph setting to start with. So in here, you need to go set graph setting and you need to put it into the right spot there. Okay? Alright, I'm going to stop the recording here, but I'm going to come around and help you. I might put a couple of different things up. I just want you to try and find a histogram, find the mean, mode, median. Okay? So I'm going to put up some questions on the board, just like some sets of data, and I'd like you on your calculator with each other if you don't have one, to find the mean, the mode, the median, and to graph a histogram. Alright?